Did you know that Kevin Costner almost lost his entire fortune making this movie? Imagine betting everything, your money, your career, your reputation, on a single film. That's exactly what happened when he decided to direct and star in Dances with Wolves. Nobody believed in it. The studios thought it was too long, too slow, and too risky. But Costner saw something magical in the story. He saw a chance to tell the truth about the American frontier in a way nobody had done before. And then something incredible happened. The film changed everything. It won the highest awards, touched millions of hearts, and proved that sometimes the biggest risks create the most beautiful rewards. Let's dive in and discover 20 weird and amazing facts about Dances with Wolves. Number 20. The studio almost canceled everything before filming started. When Kevin Costner first pitched this idea, the movie studios in Hollywood looked at him like he was crazy. They said, "No one wants to watch a 3-hour Western with Native American characters and subtitled dialogue." Can you imagine that? In 1988, the idea of making a film where actual indigenous people spoke their real language seemed impossible to studios. They wanted action, explosions, and simple stories. Dances with Wolves offered something different, something real, something human, something that asked audiences to think and feel deeply. The budget kept growing because Costner refused to cut corners. He wanted authentic costumes, real locations, and genuine respect for the Lakota people. Studio executives were sweating. They feared financial disaster. Some wanted to pull the plug entirely and save their money. But Costner stood firm. He believed so strongly that he put his own money into the project when the studio funding fell short. That wasn't a smart business move. That was pure faith in a story. The studios thought he was gambling with foolishness, but he was actually creating cinema history. What looked like a risky investment turned into one of the most successful films ever made. Nobody predicted it would work, but Costner's conviction was unshakable. Number 19. Kevin Costner had never directed a movie before. Here's something shocking. When Kevin Costner sat down in the director's chair for the very first time in his entire career, he was directing an epic 3-hour film with thousands of extras, horses, and complex battle scenes. Most directors start small. They make short films or low-budget projects to learn the craft. They practice with manageable teams and simple stories. Not Costner. His first film was a massive, expensive Western that could have bankrupted him if anything went wrong. He had no safety net. He had no experience. He had only passion and vision. The crew didn't know if he could do it either. Some actors were nervous taking direction from someone who'd never directed before. Some questioned whether an actor could suddenly become a director without any training or previous experience behind the camera. But Costner studied under great directors. He watched how they worked. He learned on set, he asked questions, he made decisions and lived with the consequences. And somehow, impossibly, he pulled it off. His first film became one of the greatest films ever made. That wasn't luck. That was determination meeting preparation at the perfect moment. The confidence he displayed inspired his crew to believe in the vision even when doubt surrounded them. Number 18. The original script was rejected by every major star in Hollywood. Before Kevin Costner read the script, it was offered to other famous actors. Every single one said no. Box office superstars rejected it. Academy Award winners turned it down. They thought the story was too slow. They worried about the 3-hour length. They didn't understand why so much time would be spent on Native American culture and language. They feared audiences wouldn't sit through something so different from typical action movies. The script sat on desks and gathered dust. Nobody wanted it. Nobody believed in it. Famous agents told their clients to pass. Studios shelved it as unmarketable. Finally, it landed with Costner, and he read it like someone discovering treasure, buried in his own backyard. He immediately saw the heart of the story. He understood that this wasn't just about a man and a tribe. It was about human connection, redemption, finding your true home, and questioning everything you thought you knew. He saw the poetry in it. He saw the spiritual dimensions. All those other actors missed something beautiful because they were looking for a different kind of movie. They were thinking about box office numbers and franchise potential. Costner was thinking about art and truth. Sometimes the best stories find the right person at exactly the right moment. Costner was that person. He recognized a masterpiece when others saw only a risk. Number 17. The Lakota language. Spoken in the film is real, not invented. When you hear the Lakota characters speak in their language throughout the film, you're listening to something genuine and powerful. The filmmakers didn't create fake Native American words or simplified dialogue. They worked with actual Lakota speakers and language experts. They made sure every word, every phrase, every sentence was authentic and respectful. This was groundbreaking. Most Hollywood films either ignored Native American languages completely or created silly, fake versions that sounded nothing like the real thing. Some films used gibberish and called it Indian talk. Dances with Wolves treated the Lakota language with genuine respect and dignity. Actors had to learn and memorize Lakota words without always understanding what they meant. They just had to pronounce them perfectly and trust the language coaches. For many viewers, especially non-native audiences, this was their first time hearing a Native American language spoken on screen in a real and respectful way. The subtitles allowed audiences to learn alongside the main character. It created an experience of discovery and connection. That commitment to authenticity changed how films portrayed Indigenous peoples forever. It set a new standard for representation in Hollywood cinema. Number 16. Kevin Costner learned to ride a horse. Well enough to perform his own stunts, Kevin Costner wasn't an experienced horseman when filming began. He had to learn riding from absolute scratch. But he didn't just learn enough to fake it for the cameras. He trained hard and intensely until he could do his own stunts on horseback. He learned to ride at a gallop, to handle weapons while riding, to fall safely, and to make it all look natural and believable. Some of the most dangerous scenes with horses, scenes that could have seriously injured someone, Costner was actually doing those himself, not hiding behind a stunt double. That takes genuine commitment. That takes real courage. He trained for months before filming even started. He fell off horses. He got bruised and sore. He got back on and kept going. He worked with experienced horse trainers who pushed him harder each day. When you watch him ride across the prairie in the film, that's a real actor who learned a real skill to serve the story. It wasn't faked. It wasn't cheated with camera tricks. It was earned through hard work, dedication, and a willingness to take personal physical risks for artistic authenticity. Number 15. The battle scene was so realistic that some crew members couldn't watch it. The big buffalo hunt scene and the battle sequences were filmed with such intensity and realism that they disturbed some people on set. Real horses, real actors, real explosions, real danger. Safety was a concern, but so was authenticity. Kevin Costner wanted these scenes to feel like actual history, not like movie magic or entertainment spectacle. The filming was physically and emotionally exhausting for everyone involved. Stunt people got hurt. Animals were stressed. The atmosphere on set was tense and heavy. Some crew members found the scenes too violent and disturbing to witness, even though they weren't graphic by modern standards. It was the emotional weight and realism that affected people deeply. They could feel the stakes. They could sense the danger. They could see the pain and fear in the actors' eyes. It wasn't theatrical. It was raw. What looked exciting and thrilling on screen was actually painful and difficult to create. The violence wasn't glorified or celebrated. It was shown as tragic and devastating. That's why it hit so hard. That's why audiences felt something real when watching those sequences. Number 14. The film was shot in South Dakota, where the story actually takes place. Instead of building fake sets in California or filming in comfortable studio backlots, Kevin Costner insisted on shooting in South Dakota, the actual location where the story happened. This decision had enormous practical and artistic consequences. It meant dealing with real weather, real terrain, and real isolation. The crew traveled to the Black Hills region and other historic locations that held genuine significance for the Lakota people. They experienced the landscape the way their characters would experience it. The wind was real. The cold was real. The vastness was real. The isolation was real. Some modern movie productions would never do this. It's easier and cheaper to use green screens and studio sets. It's more comfortable to film near cities with good restaurants and hotels. But Costner believed the actors and crew needed to feel the place to make it authentic. By filming in the actual location, everyone absorbed the history and spirit of the land. They felt connected to the real people who lived there. They understood the geography in a bone-deep way. You can feel that authenticity in every frame. The landscape isn't just a backdrop, it's a character in the story. It's alive and present. Number 13. Graham Greene, who played Kicking Bird, was not a professional actor. Before this, Graham Greene was a Native American actor who hadn't done much film work before Dances with Wolves. He had some theater experience and small television roles, but nothing that would suggest he could carry major scenes in an epic film. Kevin Costner saw something special in him and cast him as Kicking Bird, one of the most important characters in the entire film. This was a huge opportunity for Greene. It was also a huge risk for Costner, but he trusted his instincts. Greene delivered an incredible performance that earned critical acclaim and recognition. His scenes with Costner crackle with emotion and complexity. The character of Kicking Bird is wise, conflicted, and deeply human. He's not a simple stereotype. He's a leader struggling with impossible choices. Greene brought all of that nuance to life with remarkable skill. He proved that you don't need a famous name or decades of experience to give an outstanding performance. You need talent, dedication, emotional intelligence, and a director who believes in you. That's what Costner provided. Graham Greene's career was launched by this film. He went on to have a long and successful career in Hollywood and television, but it all started with a director willing to take a chance on a lesser-known actor. Number 12. Over 2,000 extras were used, many of them Native Americans from local tribes. The battle scenes and village sequences required enormous crowds. Kevin Costner hired over 2,000 extras for the film. More importantly, he made sure that many of these extras were actual Native Americans from local tribes in South Dakota and surrounding areas. This was a conscious choice to honor the story and the people being represented. Hollywood had a long history of casting white actors in Native American roles or using non-native extras to play indigenous peoples. It was cheaper and easier. It was standard practice. Dances with Wolves rejected that practice entirely. By hiring actual tribe members, the film became a real collaboration with the communities whose history was being told. It also meant real money and real opportunities went to Native American workers and performers. Some of these people had never been in a movie before. Some were elders sharing their knowledge. Some were children experiencing cinema for the first time. They brought authentic presence and energy to every scene. You can feel the difference when people are truly representing themselves rather than performing a stereotype. The humanity shines through. The dignity is unmistakable. Number 11. The film cost millions to make, but nobody thought it would make money back. Making an epic 3-hour film in a real location with thousands of extras and months of filming is incredibly expensive. The budget grew as production continued because of Costner's refusal to compromise on quality. He spent money on what mattered, Authentic details, good actors, real locations, talented crew members. Studios were terrified watching the budget expand. This wasn't a formula action film with guaranteed appeal to multiple demographics. It wasn't a sequel or a remake based on existing material. It was a thoughtful, slow-paced story about a white soldier who joins a Native American tribe. On paper, that sounded like a commercial disaster waiting to happen. Who would want to watch that? Preview audiences were skeptical. The early reactions weren't unanimous raves. Some people found it slow. Some didn't connect with the story. Studios wondered if they'd made a catastrophic mistake. They worried about losing millions of dollars. But then the film was released to general audiences, and something magical happened. People loved it. They told their friends. They went back to see it again. Word of mouth spread like wildfire across the country. The film became a massive hit at the box office. It made back its budget many times over. It generated enormous profits. Kevin Costner's huge financial gamble paid off in ways nobody could have predicted. Sometimes the biggest commercial successes come from the most unlikely places. Number 10. The editing process. Took almost a year, and thousands of hours of footage had to be reviewed. Filming captured an enormous amount of material. The cameras ran and ran. The production shot scenes multiple times from different angles. The editors had to review thousands of hours of footage to piece together the final 3-hour film. That's not exaggeration. Literally, thousands and thousands of hours. Editor Neil Travis had to decide every single cut, every transition, every moment of timing. Should this shot last 2 seconds or 3 seconds? Does this dialogue moment need to breathe? Should we linger on this actor's face or cut away quickly? These tiny decisions, multiplied across an entire film, create the final experience. The editing process took nearly a year by itself. It was meticulous, obsessive work. Every scene had to flow into the next seamlessly. Every transition had to feel natural. Every moment of silence had to mean something. The pacing had to pull viewers deeper into the story without losing them or making them restless. Modern editing software makes some things easier, but this was done with film editing techniques that required physical cutting and splicing. It was slow, deliberate work that required patience and artistic vision. Editors would literally cut film strips and tape them together. A single mistake meant starting over. The final film might have looked effortless, but behind it was a year of one person making hundreds of thousands of tiny decisions to serve the story. Number 9. John Barry composed the score. Entirely on acoustic instruments, no electronic music. The film's beautiful musical score was composed by John Barry, one of the greatest film composers who ever lived. He had composed music for James Bond films and other major productions. For Dances with Wolves, he made a specific choice: use only acoustic instruments. No synthesizers, no electronic sounds, nothing artificial or technological. Every note you hear was played by real musicians on real instruments. The main theme was played on French horns and other traditional orchestral instruments. Barry wanted the music to feel timeless and connected to the landscape and history of the film. Electronic music would have felt artificial and modern. Acoustic instruments connected the score to the natural world and the spiritual nature of the Lakota people. Barry recorded orchestras in real studios. The musicians had to play perfectly because there was no way to fake or artificially enhance the sound. There was no digital correction. There was no editing out bad notes. If a musician made a mistake, they had to play the entire passage again. That commitment to acoustic purity made the score one of the most beloved film scores ever created. When you hear that main theme, you're hearing actual musicians creating beauty. The film's score became iconic and memorable precisely because of that commitment to authenticity. Number 8. Kevin Costner. Almost quit directing. During a difficult shooting day when everything went wrong. There was one day during filming when nothing went right. Nothing. The weather turned bad and unpredictable. The horses spooked and became difficult to work with. Actors were struggling with their lines or their emotional connections to scenes. The lighting was wrong and had to be reset repeatedly. Scenes had to be reshot again and again. Schedules fell behind. Tempers were frayed. Equipment malfunctioned. The day felt like a complete disaster. It felt like everything was falling apart. Kevin Costner, directing his first film, felt overwhelmed and defeated. He started to doubt everything. He thought maybe he wasn't cut out to be a director. Maybe the studios were right to doubt him. Maybe he lacked the experience and skills needed. Maybe this whole project was a massive mistake that would destroy his career and his finances. He had a moment of deep doubt where giving up seemed like the most reasonable and sensible choice. He could walk away, cut his losses, let someone more experienced take over. It would be the practical thing to do. Every director faces moments like that. It's part of the process. It's a test of character and commitment. What matters is whether you push through or give up. Costner pushed through. He took a break, regrouped, thought about why he started this journey, and came back ready to fight through the difficulty. The next day, he returned with renewed determination. That single decision to keep going changed everything. If he'd quit that day, the film would never have been completed. We wouldn't have this masterpiece. Number 7. The film was released in a different cut in Europe than in America. When Dances with Wolves was released internationally, some European markets received a slightly different version of the film. Different scenes were included or edited differently for different audiences. The American version and the European versions had variations. Some scenes were longer in one version, some were shorter in another. This wasn't unusual for films at that time, but it meant that not everyone watching the film was seeing exactly the same movie. Some viewers who traveled or later discovered the alternate version were surprised to find scenes they'd never seen before. They would watch the film they thought they knew and discover new moments. This created an interesting legacy where film fans could discuss which version they preferred. Some preferred the longer cut with more character development. Others preferred the tighter American version. It's like finding a secret treasure inside something familiar. Number 6. The Lakota advisors on set pushed back against certain scenes and won those arguments. Kevin Costner worked with Lakota cultural advisors throughout filming. These were real tribal members whose job was to ensure authenticity and respect. These weren't just decorative consultants. They had real power and influence. Sometimes these advisors told Costner that scenes weren't accurate or were offensive to Lakota culture. They would say, "That's not how we would do this. That doesn't reflect our values or our practices." And here's the important part. Costner actually listened. He didn't dismiss them. He didn't insist on his vision. He changed scenes based on their feedback. He cut dialogue that wasn't authentic. He modified actions that didn't reflect actual cultural practices. He deferred to people who knew their own culture better than he did. This wasn't tokenism. This was genuine collaboration where Native American voices actually influenced the final film. That's why the film feels respectful rather than exploitative. It's why indigenous viewers could see their ancestors and their history treated with dignity on screen. Costner demonstrated that respect meant listening, even when it meant changing your own artistic decisions. Number 5. The film won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, making Kevin Costner's dreams come true. After months of doubt and uncertainty, the Academy Award ceremony arrived. Dances with Wolves was nominated for multiple Oscars. It competed in the biggest categories. Then it started winning, one after another. Best Picture, the highest honor in cinema. Best Director, validation that Kevin Costner's vision and leadership were recognized. Best Cinematography for the breathtaking visuals. Best Sound for the authentic audio design. Best Editing for the meticulous work of assembling the film. Best Original Score for John Barry's beautiful composition. Best Supporting Actor for Graham Greene's brilliant performance. Kevin Costner, the actor who nobody believed in, who'd risked his entire fortune, who'd never directed before, won an Oscar for Best Director. The film he'd fought for so hard was recognized as the year's greatest achievement in cinema. The film that studios wanted to cancel was now being celebrated as the best picture of the year. It was a moment of total vindication. All the people who said it couldn't be done were proven wrong. All the studios that wanted to cancel it had to watch it triumph. All the actors who rejected the script had to watch someone else become a hero with it. Costner's gamble paid off in the most spectacular way possible. The film became a classic that continues to inspire audiences decades later. Number 4. The famous hunting buffalo scene. Required months of coordination with a real buffalo herd. The sequence where the tribe hunts buffalo is one of the most famous scenes in cinema history. It's thrilling, visually spectacular, and emotionally powerful. To film this, the production team had to work with a real buffalo herd. You can't fake that. You can't use movie magic or special effects to create authentic-looking buffalo hunting. The team had to find real buffalo, convince them to move in the right directions, coordinate with riders on horseback, and film the entire chaotic sequence without anyone getting seriously hurt or killed. It took months of planning and preparation. They worked with animal handlers who understood buffalo behavior and psychology. They studied how real buffalo herds move and react. They choreographed movements, like a dance between human riders and animal instinct. Nothing was scripted for the animals. They were genuinely wild and unpredictable. The scene looks almost calm and organized on screen, but the behind-the-scenes reality was controlled chaos. The actors were riding real horses at real speed alongside real buffalo. One mistake could mean serious injury or death. The buffalo could suddenly charge, a horse could stumble, a rider could fall. Everyone involved understood the genuine danger. That's why the scene feels so powerful and real, because it actually was. The danger was real. The stakes were real. Number 3. Some Lakota tribe members cried when they saw their language and culture portrayed respectfully on screen. When the film premiered and tribe members saw themselves and their culture depicted with genuine respect and authenticity. Some experienced profound emotional reactions. To see your own language spoken on screen. To hear the Lakota words that you speak at home and daily life. To see your ancestors' customs shown accurately. To see your people portrayed as wise, complex, and beautiful, rather than as stereotypes or villains. That's powerful. That's deeply moving. That's healing. Some viewers from the Lakota community reported that seeing this film helped them feel pride in their heritage and culture at a time when Native American identities were still being marginalized in mainstream media. Young Native American people could watch this film and see themselves as dignified and worthy. They could hear their language celebrated. They could feel their history respected. A film could do that. Art could do that. When you treat people and their stories with true respect, when you listen to their voices, when you include them in the creative process, it can touch hearts in ways nothing else can. That's what Dances with Wolves did. It showed audiences that indigenous peoples deserve to be the heroes of their own stories. Number 2. The film influenced how Hollywood would make westerns and historical films going forward. Before Dances with Wolves, westerns were usually told from the perspective of white settlers and cavalry soldiers fighting against savage Indians. That was the standard formula for decades and decades. The good guys wore white hats and represented civilization. The bad guys were the Native Americans who resisted progress and civilization. That narrative was so deeply embedded in American culture that it felt like historical truth. Dances with Wolves flipped that perspective entirely. It showed the Lakota people as the story's moral center. They were wise. They were dignified. They were trying to protect their way of life and their people. It showed the U.S. cavalry as destructive and morally bankrupt. The soldiers represented greed and dishonor. The government they served was corrupt and brutal. It asked audiences to question the official history they'd been taught in school. It challenged the comfortable myth that westward expansion was good and inevitable. This was revolutionary. It was controversial in some quarters. Some viewers weren't ready to question their understanding of history, but others found it liberating and truthful. After Dances with Wolves succeeded, filmmakers started reconsidering how they told Western stories. Studios became more interested in films that questioned historical narratives rather than celebrating them uncritically. Indigenous perspectives started being included more frequently in mainstream films. Not perfect or without problems, but a genuine shift happened. One film changed the conversation about representation and history in Hollywood. That's cultural impact that extends far beyond just entertainment. Number 1. Kevin Costner's Gamble proved that you can make art on your own terms and change the world. Here's the deepest truth about Dances with Wolves. Kevin Costner believed in a story so strongly that he risked everything. He risked his entire fortune. He risked his career and reputation. He risked his standing in Hollywood. He put his own money in when studios wouldn't fully fund it. He directed his first film as an epic 3-hour historical drama when it would have been safer and smarter to start with something smaller. He insisted on authenticity over convenience. He insisted on shooting in real locations instead of studios. He insisted on hiring actual Native American actors and extras rather than using the traditional Hollywood approach. He insisted on learning the Lakota language and using it in the film. He fought for respect toward Native American culture when it would have been easier and cheaper to perpetuate stereotypes. He made every decision based on artistic integrity rather than box office calculation. He said no to quick profits in favor of long-term artistic meaning. And then something beautiful happened. His commitment to doing things the right way, on his own terms, created a film that not only succeeded commercially, but that actually changed how an entire industry told stories. He didn't just make a movie. He made a statement about what cinema could be when it was made with honesty, respect, and artistic courage. He showed that audiences hunger for authentic stories told with genuine respect. He proved that the biggest commercial successes sometimes come from the most sincere artistic commitments. Dances with Wolves became a cultural milestone. It's a lesson that matters far beyond film. It's about the power of following your convictions, even when the world doubts you. Bonus fact: the ceremonial sequences were filmed during actual celebrations with real spiritual significance. Behind the camera, the filmmakers faced an unexpected challenge and opportunity. Some of the ceremonial scenes in the film were shot during actual Lakota spiritual celebrations and ceremonies. This wasn't just for show or authenticity. These were real moments with real spiritual meaning. The filmmakers had to navigate the sacred nature of these moments carefully and respectfully. They weren't allowed to film certain parts of the ceremonies. They had to observe protocols and rules about how to behave in sacred spaces. They had to respect that they were witnessing something holy, not just something photogenic. They had to step back sometimes and just watch. They had to put down their cameras and participate as human beings rather than filmmakers. This created an interesting dynamic where the film crew had to be humble and respectful within the sacred spaces. It meant that what ended up on screen wasn't a performance of spirituality. It was a genuine expression of living spiritual practice. The crew learned something profound. Some things are bigger than any film. Some things demand respect that transcends entertainment or commercial consideration. That humility, That willingness to say, "We can't film that because it's sacred," actually deepened the authenticity and power of what they could film. The parts of the ceremony they were allowed to film carried real spiritual weight because they came from a genuine place. That commitment to respecting boundaries actually made the film more powerful, not less. Old tools, new magic. The past lived again through art, not by capturing everything, but by respecting what couldn't be captured. It's a lesson about the difference between exploitation and collaboration, between taking and receiving with gratitude. Dances with Wolves tells a story about a man who discovers his true home isn't where he was born. It's where his heart finds peace and connection. That's a story about belonging. It's a story about finding your people and your purpose. It's about realizing that the life you thought you wanted might not be the life that brings you fulfillment. But beyond the beautiful narrative of personal transformation, the film carries a deeper truth about courage and integrity. Kevin Costner taught us that sometimes the biggest rewards come from the biggest risks. The most powerful art comes from artists willing to do things differently, to question what they've been taught, and to treat all people with genuine respect and dignity. The film showed the world that stories told from new perspectives could be both commercially successful and artistically meaningful. It proved that audiences hunger for honesty, even when that honesty challenges comfortable beliefs and familiar narratives. It demonstrated that when you work with authenticity and respect, when you include the voices of people whose stories you're telling, when you commit to doing things the right way instead of the easy way, something magical can happen. That's the real legacy of Dances with Wolves. Not just a beautiful film that won awards, but a blueprint for how to make art that matters. Not just entertainment, but a story that changes hearts and minds. Not just a Western, but a statement about justice, dignity, and the power of human connection. If you enjoyed these stories and secrets behind this incredible film, please subscribe for more. Every movie hides a truth waiting to be discovered. Every story contains lessons about creativity, courage, and the power of art to change hearts and minds and societies. We'll keep uncovering these truths, one story at a time. Thank you for spending this time with us, learning about the magic that happens when artists dare to dream big and believe in their vision, even when the world doubts them. When you believe in something so strongly that you'll risk everything, amazing things can happen. That's the message of Dances with Wolves, and that's what we celebrate here.